Welcome to our webinar on less stuff and more stories. We're going to talk about ways that you can declutter physical objects and save the stories that go along with those, whether you decide to keep those objects or hand them off to someone else. There are all sorts of good things you can do, and we are today partnered with Artifacts, which is another service to help you share those stories. And we're going to go into what that is here in just a moment. My name is Angela Andrieux, and I'm a product evangelist for Mylio. What that means is I'm responsible for helping people be successful with their software. I write documentation, I do tutorials, live broadcasts, all sorts of stuff like that to make sure you guys understand and get the most out of the software. I'm also a fine art photographer, photo educator, and my family's family memory keeper, meaning that I have been tasked with saving and sharing a lot of the stories for the things in my home and those of my parents and my grandparents. So lots of cool stuff to share and Artifact. And I'm also joined today by Ellen from Artifacts and JC Figueroa. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. So JC.
Hello, nice to, meet everyone virtually. I'm JC Figueroa. I'm the customer success lead at Mylio. That means I'm the guy that takes all your problems and makes them go away. So when you guys contact our support team or when you're looking for ways to learn or you have some help onboarding on the software, myself or someone from my team are the people helping you do that and making sure that you're successful. I'm also an underwater photographer. It is kind of my hobby and my passion. So I use Mylio every day, both for my personal photos, all the photos that we take with our phone and all of that. Just like Angela, I'm my family's memory keeper. Just because I'm the guy with the camera, it falls to us to do the job of also keeping all the history of the family. So I use Mylio both for that and for my semi-professional underwater photography. So I'm happy to be here. I hope I can show you some things that make it fun and make you want to relate more to your photos. They're important.
All right. And then Ellen.
Hi, everybody. As you can see here, I'm the co-founder and chief solutions officer at Artifacts. And what is a CSO? It means that a little bit like JC, all the product and engineering and design and everything like that over here at Artifacts, I'm leading our team on. And we're going to tell you all about us. So I'll stop there, but I will give a shout out to Maggie and say hi to you in Minnesota. I was just there last week visiting friends and family in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and you had beautiful weather. So thank you.
That's awesome. All right. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. This session is being recorded. So if for some reason you need to step away, you can't stay around for the whole thing, or maybe you just want to rewatch it because there's so much good information. We will be posting that recording at community.mylio.com. So you can pop in there within 1 to 2 business days and take advantage of that. We'll also give the recording to Ellen so she can share it with her audience wherever is posted for their stuff. So hopefully you'll have a chance to rewatch this if you'd like. As far as questions, the chat is great for connecting with other attendees. So feel free to go ahead and just put stuff into the chat when you want to share something with another attendee. If you have a specific question that you would like me, JC, or Ellen to address, please post that into the Q&A. You'll find that along the bottom of your Zoom screen. And that's going to be the best place for us to keep track of your questions and make sure that they get answered. So with that, let's talk a bit about what we're going to cover today. First off, I'm going to hand off early to JC, and he's going to talk about how to organize your important memories in Mylio Photos. And we'll discuss how to capture and organize those meaningful items, add context with metadata, things like keywords, captions, dates, all those important details, and how to prepare your photos for long-term access and sharing. We'll then pass off to Ellen, and she's going to talk about artifacts and what makes it different from traditional memory keeping, pairing stories with images and documents and more, and how to preserve and share those heirlooms, not just photos. Finally, we will conclude. JC and I are going to live artifact a couple of things. And this is going to be a really fun way for you guys to get a sneak peek into our lives and see what we're all about. So I think that's going to be probably the most fun of all of this. So with that, let me go ahead and hand off to JC and take it away.
Thank you so much. All right, I will share my screen and we'll get started here. So what you're looking at today is my actual personal Mylio Photos library. So these are real photos from real life. And there's all kinds of stuff in here. You'll see underwater photos, you'll see family photos, etc. And you'll see some goofy photos, and I'm not going to apologize for them. They're real. What we're looking at first is what we call the Mylio Life Calendar. It's one of the many views in Mylio. One of the special things about Mylio is that it lets you access your library to a variety of views. Same photos, just viewed or found in a different way. In the calendar view, for example, is where we go to find photos based on when a photo was taken, when something happened. Honey, when did we go on that trip? Or next week is so-and-so's birthday party. The calendar is the perfect place to go and find those things based on when something happened. So what you're looking at is what we call the decade mode. And in here, I can start scrolling through really every decade, the 2010s, the 2000s, the 1990s, etc. And what you're seeing is that every year is represented by a unique memory, a unique photo that is important for that year. This happens pretty automatically because Mylio is going to recognize the photos that are important to you based on how you interact with that photo. You mark a photo as a 5-star rated photo, it's more likely that photo is going to show up in the calendar than a photo that's rated 1 star, for example. So as you can see, I have photos from all kinds of life. Underwater photos, my son being born in 2003, my daughter being born in 1995. I can go into my college and high school years. And if I keep going back, there's photos of my family from way before I was born. My dad getting awards in the military. There's my grandma. One of the few photos I have of my grandma from 1964. She passed away before I was born, so I never met her. So this is my library. Now, you'll notice that a lot of these photos were not taken with a digital camera, especially the ones from before the 90s, but they're still showing in the calendar correctly. That is because Mylio gives you the ability to take a photo, a memory, and even if it's a photo that was a printed photo that you scanned to create a digital file, well, when you do that, the file is going to have the date it was scanned, not the date the photo happened. So with Mylio, you can correct those dates. What I've done with the photos that I've scanned is that as soon as I scan a photo, or even if I take a photo of a printed photo or a document with my phone, the moment that photo is in Mylio, I mark it as undated. So now I'll show you again at the very top of my calendar view here, I have a container called undated because I've taken every one of those photos and I've said, let's remove the incorrect date. And I created a to-do list. These are all the photos for which I have to correct the date. And here's a photo that I actually remember. This was in kindergarten, so I know I was 5 years old. And this was my birthday. So this must have happened on March 25th, 1974. I had to do math, and now you know how old I am. So what I can do with Mylio now is I can go and correct that date. I can give it a timestamp. I don't know what time it was, so I'm not going to give it a timestamp, but I can say all day on, well, let's see if this calendar goes that far back. All day, no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Let's try that one more time. All day in 1974, March the 25th. It was a Monday, and I remember I had a clown costume that I put on because I was kind of a class clown anyway. So now that I've corrected the date on that particular photo, if I go to 1974 and the month of March, I should be able to find that photo right around the 25th, and there it is. So this is one of the many tools that Mylio gives you to correct metadata. So back here to the top view of the calendar view, as you can see, I can use this calendar to dive down into any date. I can go into a year. It shows me all the months of that year. I can go into a month. It shows me all the days for which photos were taken in that month. And then I can go into a particular day and see the photos that were taken in that day. And when I open a photo, I can see, you guys never get to see my son. He doesn't like being shown on camera, so I'm actually gonna change to a different photo because he really doesn't like it. There, there's two good-looking gentlemen instead. So you can see that there's a lot of metadata about this photo. I dove deep all the way into December 31st, 2021. And here I have the photo was taken with an iPhone. The date came from the iPhone. The location of where this was taken came from the iPhone. And notice that Mylio knows who the two people in the photo are. All of this is going to be very, very important as you're going through your memories, as you're going through those special relationships, those special experiences, or those items that are sentimental to you. The calendar view is one of the ways in which you're going to be able to recover, find, discover new memories. Another view that I like in Mylio, same library of photos, just displayed in a different way, is the map view. In the map view, I'm going to zoom all the way out here, and you can see all your photos in the map with thumbnails of where the photo happened all around the world. Now, this also happens automatically if the photo was taken with a phone or with a camera that captures GPS data. That information is going to be embedded, and Mylio reads it and then displays the photo in the map automatically for you. The more you zoom in into a particular area, I live in Seattle, so as I zoom into this area, you're going to see more and more detail. And if I go over here to the Olympic Peninsula, you'll see me like go through a hike. This is one of the map views that we have. It's called the topographical view. You can also have a satellite or a standard map view. But in this view, I can see that I was following, a particular hiking trail. So there's like the dirt road where I park and I started my hike and I'm following along and all the way to like the first campsite. And if I click on that, it shows me the photos from the campsite. So the map view is another way in which you can find photos based on a different way that we remember. In this case, where something happened. And just like with the calendar view, you can correct the dates. With the map view, you can correct the location of a photo. You'll notice in the bottom left corner, there's a little button. Let me move the map so you can see it better. There's a little button called View on Tag. If I click on that, it shows me all the photos that don't have the correct GPS data. Here's a bunch of photos that my daughter sends me photos of my granddaughter every single day, right? So I know that all of these photos were taken in the same location. I can go ahead and expand the map a little bit and say, I want to find Francis Avenue in Atlantic Beach. And there it is. If I click on it, it's going to zoom in there. And I know exactly where her house is, so I can just zoom in a little bit on that location, drag one or multiple photos, and then when I click the little green button, those photos, it's not there, it's actually there. When I click one or more photos, those photos are going to be geotagged and they'll appear in the map accordingly. So again, different ways of adding important metadata in addition to the metadata that Mylio is capturing automatically. I'll show you one last view, then we'll go into finding something that we want to put on artifacts. So this is my favorite view, is the people view. And this is where you find photos based on who is in the photo. So if I want to find photos of my daughter, because she doesn't mind being shown, her name is not daughter, her name is Madeline. So when I type that, it shows me the container for Madeline. And when I open that container, I can see photos of my daughter all the way from when she was a baby. And I can basically just go through. Notice that every single one of these photos is being zoomed in on her face. If I expand it, there's more to the photos, but Mylio is zooming in on the face because that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in finding photos of this particular individual, in this case, my daughter. I can scroll all the way through and there's lots of photos of her, although not as many as my granddaughter because it's so much easier to take photos these days. So if I go all the way to the bottom here, you'll notice that now there's photos where it's very hard to find a photo of my daughter where she's not holding her daughter anymore. And I didn't go and have to manually tell Mylio every single one of these 3,878 photos of my daughter. No, Mylio just did it. It just found those photos for me after I taught it what that face looked like. So I manually tag a handful of faces, 4 or 5, and then Mylio continues to find more and more photos of that individual. And just like there's a kind of to-do list with the calendar and with the map, there's also a little to-do list at the top of the people view called untag. Here's a container of all the faces Mylio has found, 1,838 faces that have not been assigned to a particular individual. So if I click on that, it'll show me all those faces that need to be tagged. I could, of course, do it one by one by choosing a name or typing the name here. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use this tool in Mylio called batch face tagging. And batch face tagging is going to do a lot of the work for me, because what it's going to do is it's going to aggregate all the photos that are the same person, in this case, Lucy. And I'm like, yeah, those are all photos of Lucy. Those are all correct. I'm going to go ahead and approve those. And then it moves to the next person, her dad, Alex. And I can quickly scan through. There's a funny one with a wig. Those are all Alex. And notice that it's finding Alex with sunglasses and Alex with a hat and Alex with a wig, but they're all Alex. So you can very quickly go through your library and have everybody tag and then be able to find faces or all the photos of that particular individual. And this is going to come in really, really handy when I show you how to do searches. All right, so I show you the calendar view where you can find photos in your library based on when the photo took place or correct metadata about the date. We talked about the map view where you can find photos based on where the photo took place and correct data about the location of the photo. And we looked at the people view where you can find photos based on who is in the photo and tag the correct faces and teach Mylio who the people in your library are. The next view I'm going to show you is the album view. And this is where you can have fun because you can throw all the things that belong together. And I've created a little album here that shows me some of the things that I want to artifact because they're special to me. One of them is this crib. And this crib is a crib that if I scan all the way down here to the, let's go ahead and sort this by date. And if I go to the top, you'll see a photo of my daughter in this crib. And if I go to the next photo, it's a photo of my son in this crib. He's not tagged, but we can manually tag him. Even though you can't see his face, we can still say, this is Gabriel. And next, we see the crib being remodeled because eventually it became the crib for Lucy. We painted it, we drew some, well, my wife is the artist, she drew some really cool stuff on it. My son helped sand it down. And there is the crib for Lucy. And there's us going through the airport trying to move this thing to Jacksonville, Florida, where Lucy was being born. This is us arriving at the airport. And there is the crib in Lucy's bedroom. And of course, there's photos of Lucy in that crib that her mom used when she was a baby. So of course, this is a super important memory for us. So this is the first thing I put in my artifact gallery. And it has a lot of the story of what happened. Why did I decide to build a crib, even though I had never done woodworking? But the way I found this was super easy with Mylio because all I had to do was I went here to the search bar and I said crib, and Mylio found almost all the photos of the crib because Mylio can identify objects and it can read and it can extract all the metadata. In some cases, like those photos of the boxes in the airport, well, Mylio doesn't have X-ray. It's not Superman. So it can't see inside the box to tell that there's a crib inside the box, right? So I had to find those photos myself, but because I knew which day I flew, I just went to the calendar view. I found that photo. I gave it a keyword of crib, and then I added it to my album. So it's just that easy because you have different ways of finding and searching for things. I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to pass it over to talk more about Artifact. but I want you to see how easy it is to find complex things in Mylio. I want to find photos of my wedding, right? And specifically, I want to find one of the professional photos of my wedding where it's just my wife and I in the photos. So I'm going to tell Mylio to show me photos of JC and Sarah. I'm just doing a search. When I hit return, it says, okay, I have 1,500 photos of you and Sarah. And you'll notice that in a lot of these photos, there's other people. So I'm going to say, no, no. I want photos of JC and Sarah where the number of faces in the photos, in other words, the face count, equals 2. And now Mylio says, okay, there's 900 of those. I'm like, that's still too many. Let's narrow this down. So the photo I want was taken in Puerto Rico. And there's a space in Puerto Rico. That's why I'm putting that in quotes, but I'm going to hit return. And now it's telling me, okay, we're down to 192 photos of you and Sarah in Puerto Rico. I don't know why Greg and I are in that photo or Ismail and I. I'm going to have to look into that. But for the most part, it's photos of Sarah and I. So now I'm going to say, okay, I know that the photographer for our wedding was using a Canon camera. So the make of the camera is Canon. And now there's our wedding photos. So now we're down to 86. 86 is pretty easy to browse through. So I can just go and find those wedding photos. So it's very, very powerful. Now, what I did might be a little bit intimidating to some people, but there's a easier way. You go into a view that I didn't show you. It's called the all photos view, where you see every photo, right? How many of you have done this on your phone where you're like looking for a photo and you like scan and scan and scan, and you may or you may not find the photo that you want? Well, with Mylio, you can turn on filtering. So just like I did a bunch of searches, I can start paring down my 50,000 photo library by camera. I could say, okay, I'm looking only for Canon photos. And by people, I can say, okay, I want Sarah in the photo, right? And it says, okay, there's, actually, I'm going to do something a little better here because I gave you that example. So let's say that I want photos of my daughter by the water. So I can type Madeline and it says, okay, by person, Madeline. And then I'm going to say, I want Madeline by the water. And when I type water, one of the options is called a smart tag. Smart tag is our AI system. It's Mylio going into the photos, identifying what's in it, and then adding a smart tag or an automatic tag to the photo. So now I'm going to go and look for photos where my daughter is by the water. And sure enough, something is not quite right. Let's do Madeline. Oh, by person. There we go. I I did break my library. I was telling Angela and Ellen and Lori before we started that I was testing something. Oh, I see what it is. There's 2 Madelines and one is the wrong one. Interesting. So I did break my library, but let's just find photos of Lucy by the water instead. See if that works better. So person Lucy. There we go. So there's photos of Lucy by the water. So you can just keep adding filters, just like when you go on Amazon and you start clicking on all the things that are specific to the item you want to shop. You can do the same with Mylio. All right, I've talked enough. I'm going to pass it over to Angela and Ellen. They're going to give you a few more examples, and we're going to take a deeper look into what you can do with artifacts, because what I show you is just the beginning. It's so cool.
Well, with that great handoff, thank you. I'm going to request my ability to share screen, and I'm going to pop over to Artifacts right now and introduce you. Now, if you did stumble on the name, I don't blame you. We took out that second A in the word artifacts because we want you to think about artifacts, those things that we keep in this world, but we didn't want to limit you to things that are financially valuable or historically relevant or belong in a museum. Artifacts here are anything that matter to you. And we tell people we are where stuff and stories meet. So when Angela said we're going to talk about how we're different from a memory app, it's because we kind of sit in the no man's land between memory apps, which there are many, many dozens of them. And if you need any tips on great story and memory apps, I have full of them. And inventories, inventory apps, there's even free ones. They will account for every spoon, lamp, couch, picture frame in your house. We wanted to help people to capture the stories and the memories and the value behind the things that they value most in their home. We tell people it's a treasure map for your loved ones someday, right? They're going to inherit all these stories and memories, and we hope get to know each other better now while we're all still alive and can enjoy these memories together too. Because JC talked about the timeline view, the calendar view over on Mylio, I'm showing you my personal artifacts. I've customized my little top here with a photo of my daughter and me and a little bit about me, totally optional. And this is a timeline view of the things I've artifacted by year. I also have the capability of switching to decade view if I would like. And for each of these, I can scroll through and see all the artifacts that I have made over time. And I can click on any one of them to get a nice little preview, and I can always pop into the artifact if I so choose. And just like JC talked about, it's not perfect when we say when something happened. If I create an artifact and I don't add a date because it's optional, well, it'll appear this year. And that could be very wrong. And so we made it real easy. You can just click and drag and it will say, when does this belong? And you can quickly update that. But the timeline view is pretty awesome because it's where you can kind of take your life into account and figure out, oh, I had no baby. Oh, I didn't go to graduate school. Oh, I never went to France. You can find gaps in your life, and our family historians and genealogists out there really love it. So what does an artifact look like anyway? What am I talking about? I'm going to pop over here and show you a great example. I created an artifact series that I tagged Muriel's Stories. I went to Artifact with my great aunt about 6 months before she passed away. And one of my favorite artifacts to share about her is this one, Muriel the Welder. Now, in an artifact, you can have up to 5 photos, video, and audio to combine to tell a story. The number 5 has significance in research in terms of memory recall, but also creating a bite-sized story that people will really digest. And in this case, she had a photo of herself, age 20, and she was a Rosie the Riveter, but her history had been lost over time. It was her husband that was the military hero. And here she had saved the goggles and the brochure that she was on the cover of from Lion Metal. And there's a newspaper article about her just donating her time in the community welding. But I also have a video of her telling us the story about learning to weld and being certified by the US Navy. This artifact tells this story in her words. I captured it. I added categories, which are all clickable as well, and tags. World War II, women in STEM, artifact video is added automatically, so I can sort by videos. And this artifact also has attachments. In this case, these are certificates and additional documentation, but it could also, if it's something valuable, maybe I have a receipt or I have a certificate of authenticity or a warranty. The documentation is meant to really make this super helpful to you. Have the memories, yes, but also maybe you need this for your insurance or your estate planning, and you have all of that documentation that you'll need. Another great example from her, and I love sharing this because how often do we go around the world globetrotting, we collect trinkets, and you're like, oh, you got a refrigerator magnet, oh, you got a shot glass, oh, you got a mug, like good for you. That is what I thought this mug was. I was like, I don't know, she had some fascination with the British royalty, good for her. No, she had in a folder saved the newspaper article of the royal visit of Queen Elizabeth to Canada. And what do you know, but, and I circled it here, Homer Wilson, her brother, was the manager at the hotel. And so she was super prideful. It was this family story about their touch with royalty. And to round it out, she started the story, which is in the artifact, with like, we were humble farmers. We had a sheep farm in Wisconsin, and here it is in the snow. Nobody knew what this photo was of, right? And so she tells the whole story from being humble origins to this touch with royalty. And it's really, really sweet. And she had the obituary of her brother, and we attached that into the artifact. But when it comes to advice that we're given on how to keep the stories and the memories alive and how to share them, this is a great example because it defies some of that advice. Some of the advice that I hate is take a picture, let it go. And why is that? And I think it's because when we take a photo of something, we're so busy. We take 5.3 billion photos on average worldwide every day. The average American takes 20 photos a day. You heard JC talking about his photos are coming in hot from his daughter with his granddaughter. We take so many photos. So if we take photos of objects because they mean so much and we're struggling to let them go, they're very quickly 20, 100,000 back on our phone. We forgot we even took the photo. We've never shared it. We've never documented why it mattered. And this is what this is. My co-founder was heartbroken when her hiking boots finally fell apart and there was just no hope of saving them. Her husband glued them together for their honeymoon, and that was it. And here they are on their honeymoon. The boots made the photo. Here she is in Afghanistan where she served. But that's why these boots were so special to her, and why when she did let them go, she had to take a photo, but she wanted to make sure that story was preserved for her family. Another great example of this, I have a daughter who is a swimmer. She's part fish. I live here in Austin. Thank goodness she's a great swimmer. Hot climate. I have a million photos of this child swimming. But this one photo where she's smiling up at me in the stands, pumping her arms because she just got her first BB time in USA swimming, was really something special. I would never have remembered why this photo was special. And because I had recorded the video of the swim, I could record the video, and I had the second video with the finishing and add it to the artifact. We take so many photos and videos, but we lose the meaning. Photos can't talk. We can't imbue that meaning, right? And so that's why we love working with Mylio, because Mylio's software is magical. You can catalog and create a library of all of your photos from all of your sources and bring it together in one place and find it however your brain works, by location, by person. And then here at Artifacts, you can grab those special curated memories and make sure that they live on and are easily shareable in bite-sized stories. To give one final example before we go into some live artifacting, being cognizant of time, I do want to talk about everyone's favorite topic in summer travel. I don't know about you all, but every time I have a friend who's like, here are my 300 photos from going to place X, I'm like, I don't even know what to do with 300 photos. Like, why are you sharing so many with me? Like, you start getting a little bored with it when you don't have the context. So what does that look like in Artifacts? Do I really only keep 5 photos? No, all of them are nicely cataloged. They're safe. But I do curate those memories. So when I went to Cape Cod, where my co-founder is born and raised, I had some photos that I just loved. I am not a professional photographer, so those of you in the audience who are, I'm sorry. These are just pics I took that I adored. And for me, per the title of my artifact, Classic Cape Cod. But I also artifacted it to in the artifact, I reference related artifacts. So if I want to go down that rabbit hole and see the rest of the story, I can click and go to related artifacts very, very easily. I can link to places I've been. And guess what? You want to know how many people have said, oh, you went to Cape Cod, where should I go? I don't have to remember. I just share the artifact. So it's a fun little summer travel tip for all of you that are enjoying that right now. Before I hand it back over, a couple things I want to flag that's really different here in Artifacts than how you might be used to in social media or in other memory or inventory type apps. First of all, we do not have emojis running around in follow counts and view counts. Social media giants were on Capitol Hill while we were building, and we said, we're going to build different, and we're going to keep it about you and keep it safe and secure. Everything you create is by default private. You can share it publicly, you can share it with friends, you can make circles on artifacts, whatever you want. We make it easy to share, but it starts private. We also make it easy for you to download in whatever format you please, or all of them. And if you upload a photo, we don't compress it, we don't change its format. You can always download it again and blow it up and put it on your wall. This is very different than a social media site that will compress that to save space. And the QR codes. I was telling the group ahead of this call, one of the things that has been a lot of fun is with the reemergence of QR codes, thanks to COVID, and we're all using QR codes for menus, etc. We have QR codes here where you can print them, or you can get stickers from us, and you can attach them to the objects. You link the things in your home to their digital story. You scan it, up pops that story. And that really is the penultimate for people. And I did have friends recently running around my house, turning things over, looking for QR codes, which is pretty funny. But really, it's really how we give meaning to the things that we collect and we keep and that are special to us. And so with that, I will pause here, shift back over to the team at Mylio, and they're going to show you a few of their favorite artifacts by creating some new ones.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and dive in first. This week, I am spending some time at my parents' house. And as I'm sure with most people, extended family, you go into their homes and they've got cool stuff everywhere. And my family's home is no exception. The room that I'm staying in, my mom has a lot of memorabilia on the wall. So things that we've inherited from other family members, things that, have distinct stories. And as I'm sitting here at my desk, I was looking up at a display box full of my grandfather's medals and his dog tags and things like that, which are super cool. And above that, I found this one shadow box that had a single medal in it. And I wasn't really sure what it was. So let me share my screen and I'm going to go ahead and show this. And that way you guys can live this story along with me because it's pretty fun. And I think it's really a great story. So here's the shadow box. I pulled it down, took a picture of it on the bed, and pulled it up in Google search. So you basically take the picture, you drag it into Google search, you can do an image search because I wasn't sure what this was all about. Like you can zoom in, you can see a little bit of text on here, but it didn't really give me a whole lot of context and it wasn't anything that was familiar to me. And what I learned is that let me go back here to my grid view. I made a little cheat sheet here. This is the Grand Army of the Republic, which was a fraternal organization from the Civil War. So this medal is super duper old. I'm going to go ahead and open this so I have my full notes here because this is actually going to be the basis of my artifact, the story that I post. So this was given to veterans of the Union Army. And so I took this picture and I did a little bit of work on it to make it look better. So you can see there's a glare on it. And so I cleaned it up a bit with the help of Photoshop and some other software that I have. So it got rid of the glare. That's one of those little magic tools that Photoshop has these days. And it just got rid of the glare. So now I can zoom in on this and I can see there it is, the Grand Army of the Republic, 1861 to 1866 veteran. And this sucker is old. So I have that picture of it. And then I took another one that I got in a little bit closer. Again, here's the version that had the glare, cleaned that up. And I have this version of it here. So as I was looking at this, I'm going, okay, whose was this? And I turn over the shadow box and on the very back, there's some text. And let me go ahead and see if I can rotate this here. Let's see, discard edits. There we go. There we go. And it says for Claudia, 10/14/85 DMC. DMC is my grandmother's initials. And it says Dad's great grandpa Nellis. So what I was able to gather from this was my grandma gave this shadow box to my aunt in 1985. And it was my grandfather's great grandfather's medal. So being the amateur family historian that I am, I took this information and I went on to Family Search. So familysearch.org is a website that's free to use and it's got a ton of historical information. You plug in a few of your relatives and all of a sudden it populates back generations upon generations. I can take one side of my family, actually this same grandfather, I can go back a slightly different branch all the way back to the 1600s in Scotland. It's absolutely mind-blowing what you can do. So with this information, I was able to go into Family Search and get Grandpa Nellis's full name, which was, let's see here. I put this in here. Matthias Matthew Nellis. So that was his full name. So that gave me some context here as to whose this was and what time frame it was. And then because familysearch.org is collaborative, when you are doing research, you can put notes in there and then other family members for deceased people that have been gone for a long time, you can see those notes. And I learned that my third great grandfather was a bugle boy in the Union Army at age 8 or 9. And that's when he got this medal. And I just think that's absolutely really, really cool. So what I did here in Mylio, let me go ahead and just go back out here to the grid, is I took all that information, I put it into a text document. That's what you're seeing right here. And Mylio not only handles photos and videos, but you can put text documents, you can put Word documents, Microsoft Office documents, and PDFs and things like that. So if you have documents, you can put that in here as well. So I gathered that. I took a picture of the back of the shadow box, and then I've got my ones here of the front and of the medal itself. So what I did from here was I grouped these into an album in Mylio, which is a digital collection, a virtual collection, doesn't move anything on my hard drive, and it lets me pull together the things that I want to artifact on the website. So I'm going to go over here to my albums, and I'm going to go into demos and my artifacts. And here we go. I've got the Civil War medal here. Here's a couple of other ones I've already sent up to the website, and I'll show you those in a moment. And then here's the images that I actually want to post on Artifacts. So let me go ahead and jump over here to my browser. This is my Artifacts page, and you can see I already have two things that I've posted. I've got a necklace that my husband made me or no, didn't make me, he bought me. And I even put the supporting documentation, the receipt up there with it. So we have that for documentation. I also have our wedding quilt that my grandma made me, and there are pictures on here of when we received it. So this is just a really cool way to keep some of these important things and tell the stories that go along with them. So what I want to do from here is create a new artifact. So I'm going to go up here to the plus and say new artifact. All right. And JC, tell me help me recall, like you just did, actually, I'm just gonna grab those two, and you just did a copy and paste and you were able to take them? You're on mute.
Use the system clipboard copy.
System clipboard copy, there we go. So I'm gonna go here and do my settings. I wanna do original size, maximum quality. Perfect, I don't need a watermarker in these. And share to system clipboard. Excellent. And then what did you do here? You went and just
click Control V or Command V for paste.
there we go. And that pulls up the system clipboard. There's my two images, and I can go ahead and upload those. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go back here to my text note, and this is the Grand Army of the Republic medal. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And yep, we're going to go ahead and say save image. That's great. Perfect. And we're going to go ahead and give that the title. And let's see here. This would fall into, it's not really antiquities.
Militaria.
Militaria, there we go. And medals. Excellent.
That's so cool.
And then here under the description, I'm just going to go ahead and grab everything that I put into this note, and I'm going to copy and paste that in there because that's the research that I did, the background. I also added in here how it came to be in my mom and dad's possession. So obviously it went from the great, 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 great grandfather, somehow made its way to my grandparents. And my grandma then gifted it to my aunt. Once she passed away, I think it went back to my grandma's possession. And when she downsized and moved house, then nobody was wanting it, which I thought was crazy. My mom took it because she's like, well, if nobody wants it, this seems too special to let go. And that's where it resides today. So now we have this background. We know exactly where it came from, who, just the story behind it. And the fact that he was 8 or 9 years old in the Union Army in the Civil War. Like that's, for my modern brain, that's really hard to comprehend. So we can go ahead and add a little bit more information here. Pretty sure this would be a United States for the country of origin. And in the future, I think this would be really cool to keep in the family. And here we can go ahead under those tags. We can type in Civil War. Ellen, is it good to use 2 words or do it all as 1 word?
You can do either. I tend to do 1 word.
Okay. So we can do Civil War, and you can add in, whatever else that you want to add in for those tags. And I'm going to go ahead and make this public. I think that's really a neat one to share. And I'm going to be able to take that link and send it to my mom, send it to my aunties, and even to my cousins. Like I have cousins whose kids are doing family history projects. They, I think, would be really interested to see this history. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now that has been artifacted and that story is preserved for the future. And I just think that is the coolest thing. I have so many things that I need to add to this website, but little by little, I'm going to get those stories preserved. And Ellen, thank you so much for introducing this to us. I'm having so much fun with it.
Oh, it's our delight. I'm so glad. And it's really interesting what you were keying in there. The intergenerational connection of these artifacts is what's really, really fun because you capture interest with just these little stories. And I think that's really fun. And we had a woman who had a Civil War book There were a certain number produced for Union and Confederate. And she, by virtue of artifacting, she sent it to her granddaughter who used it in a school project, which I thought was really neat too.
That's awesome. All right, so from there, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to JC and see if he has any new things that he wants to artifact.
Sure, I'll do a quick one because I want to leave some time for questions.
Awesome.
But I have one already prepared. I want to redeem myself and show you photos of Madeline by the water. There were 2 containers for Madeline, so I got rid of the extra one. I was testing our beta software right before the webinar started, which was a really bad idea. So I just want to show you that it works. So going back to an album, I created an album for an artifact that I want to add to my artifacts account. And it's a backpack for a child. And this was my present to my daughter during her baby shower when Lucy was born. And it really was a present for me because not too long after, Lucy and I got to walk around Universal Studios and she was in the backpack. And she learned how to say backpack. And every time she wants abuelo, that's me, to put her in the backpack, it's backpack. But there was a reason for this. I have this really intense memory of hiking with my daughter with her in one of these backpacks. And I don't know what happened to her version of that backpack. I could remember her and I on top of a mountain with her in the backpack. I could see the photo, but I could not find the photo for the longest time. And I figure it was lost. I still had the memory. I went ahead and got the new backpack for Lucy. And a few months ago, I was going through some boxes of files because we were getting ready for our taxes. And I ran into an envelope full of negatives. And wouldn't you know, I found a photo. And there is my daughter, Madeline, in the version of backpack. It's not as fancy as today's version. Uh, but that was us. And one of the things that I didn't remember was that she would fall asleep in that backpack while we're in the middle of the hike. So you can see that she has her head down and she would just sleep through and then be fully energized when I was tired because I had been the one walking all along. Well, guess who else falls asleep in the backpack? Is Lucy. So now that I have these 5 photos, I'm going to use them to create a new artifact. So I'm going to use the same technique of the system clipboard. The system clipboard, by the way, is just the place where your computer keeps whatever you copy, right? So with Mylio, you can tell Mylio what to put in your system clipboard, at what resolution or file format or anything so that you get exactly what you want. So I'm just going to click on that. It's copy on my system clipboard. I'm going to switch here to artifacts, and I was already prepared to create a new artifact. And by the way, it was just as easy as saying new artifact and drag files here. So I'm just going to click there and click paste. There's the 5 files already selected. And there it is. And I'm just going to say save. And there's 5 images I'm going to save. And we're going to name this the backpack. What is it? It's, oh, help me out, Ellen. How would you classify this one?
Man, this one's a tough one. So you could do
Yeah,
life
because,
and photos. You could also do sporting. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. So
right.
I do use life moments photos when it's like I'm telling a
Yeah,
story about photos where it's less
I
about.
think that makes the most sense.
Yep.
Because it's not about the backpack, it's about what the backpack means. And in the future, well, I'm going to say as you wish because it was a gift. It's not mine, it's hers. But I get to remember it. And I'll take the time to put in some tags in here, including little tags like Universal Studios and all the places that Lucy and I have already gone with the backpack, plus the story of finding the negatives after thinking that the photo was gone. So it's as easy as that. But I'm going to stop here because I want to leave enough time for questions. So we'll just open the floor for anyone that has any questions about Mylio, about artifacts, about the meaning of life. We know it all.
There's some
That's a
very
big
nice
promise, JC.
compliments. Yeah, some nice compliments in chat for you, Paul.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and you can type a question in the Q&A, or you can raise your hand and we'll see that you raised the hand. Or maybe there's no questions because we did such a good job. Well, since there's no questions, I will share one more thing because I was inspired by the boots artifact the first time I saw it, and I did my own. I did these shoes, and these are shoes that have traveled all over the world with me. So I was able to find the shoes and then find myself in different parts of the world wearing the same shoes. So that was in the Galapagos Islands. That was in Roatan, where I met my wife. And that was the photo of the shoes that I took right before we listed our house because we were purging and it was like, okay, we need to get rid of stuff. We moved from like a very large house where we were empty nesters to a very not large condo. So everything had to go, but I got to do an artifact of the shoes. So all right.
That's
Well,
awesome. Well,
Angela,
Steve is
back to you.
asking,
Oh,
yeah, Steve's asking a little bit about, wanting about the cost for artifacts. And on that note, actually, let me go ahead and share my last slide here. We do have a discount for you. So Ellen, do you want to talk a little bit about what the cost is for artifacts?
Absolutely. And I just typed really fast. I tried. So try us free. Try every product free always. Try it where you work. If you prefer using a laptop, an iPad, a mobile phone, we have an app. Try us there. Everyone can create 5 artifacts free. This also is how we ensure you can create artifacts and keep them private and always sign in to see someone's artifacts. And we have a $45 a year and a $119 a year. The $119 is our unlimited artifacting, and it also gives you 3 memberships to give away. If you don't know artifacts, you might not know that we also do a lot of work in brain health and family history spaces, and we're very in tune with making things affordable and bringing others in. So my mother, who has dementia, can not have a credit card, so she has one of my memberships, right? So we wanted to make sure that it was really easy to bring people in, and I put the link into chat where you can learn more about our memberships, but here is where you have your 20% off code as well.
And I believe both of these codes are good through the end of June. So you've got a few more days left to use these. And you can also get 20% off of a new membership with Mylio Photos. So I know we've got people here in this audience that are coming from Artifacts wanting to learn more about Mylio and vice versa. Both groups have something here. So hopefully that helps and you guys can get a taste of both. They're both amazing products.
What happens to my artifacts if or when I cancel my subscription? Also very important. So if you were to cancel, you would have the remainder of your subscription year, and then you can download them. So you can download your entire collection in a zip and take every single photo, video, audio document right back down in its original format with you. If you're like, oh, I'm just not sure, I might be back next year, it will stay for a year there, and you can always reactivate, and your 5 first ones will always be there free as well.
I want to say that's one of the coolest things I think I found about this product is the ability to go and get all your stuff in a really tidy downloadable format. I tried each one of the download options and I was like, okay, this just made me a believer because I'm always a little skeptical when I go and upload a bunch of stuff and it's like, we never know how long technology companies are going to be around. We hope they're going to be around for a very, very long time. But all of these things are in flux and things are always changing. So being able to download everything and still have access to all your stuff, I think is crucial.
yeah, I was very impressed by that. Artifacts and Mylio, we share common mantras and common views, and that is that your data and your information belongs to you. we don't get to hold it hostage. So with both products, you have full control of what you share, when you share it, if you share it, and when you want it back and not use the product anymore, it's always available. There's no lock-in. So we share that common thread and that common philosophy.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I'll leave this slide up here on the screen for a couple more moments, and hopefully you guys get a chance to grab those codes. If you have any other questions after the fact, you can always reach us in the Mylio community. So go to community.mylio.com. You can send a message. I'll take care of taking a look at those and make sure they get into the right hands. I'm sure Ellen has places where you can find her as well. What's the best place for you?
It's just my name, Ellen at artifacts.com. I am accessible. Reach out to me. I am happy to help. It is a founder's joy to get really tough questions or really easy ones.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Lori, for posting helpful links as we went through and moderating, making sure we didn't miss anything. And Ellen for being here and telling us so much about artifacts. JC, always a pleasure. So thank you everyone, and we will see you next time.